lighthouse was shut down 30 years ago, so no one could explain why it was still blinking. Only when someone was inside. I never planned on going near the lighthouse. It stood at the edge of a rocky cliff near my hometown. The kind of place kids dared each other to visit, and adults pretended not to remember. Officially, it was decommissioned after the last keeper died. Unofficially, everyone said it was cursed. They said the light would turn on by itself, but only on nights when the fog was thick enough to hide the coast from the world. Locals claimed it was the keeper's ghost, still trying to guide ships that no longer sailed these waters. But the old fishermen, the ones who had seen more than their share of strange things on the water, they would just shake their heads and mutter, "That's no ghost." They said something else lived in that tower, something that fed on the light. That night, my car died on the coastal road. Just sputtered and went silent. Of course, there was no signal. It was after midnight, and this stretch of road was deserted. Just me, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks below, and the lighthouse. And that's when I saw it. The light was on. A slow, methodical beam sweeping through the heavy fog. My heart hammered against my ribs. The stories, the warnings, they all came rushing back. But what choice did I have? Freezing in my car until morning, or walking towards the only light for miles. It seemed like a simple decision, but I felt a deep, primal dread pulling me back. My feet moved on their own, carrying me down the overgrown path toward the tower. The closer I got, the colder the air became, a damp, biting chill that had nothing to do with the sea spray. The lighthouse loomed out of the fog, a skeletal silhouette against the swirling gray. The door, a heavy iron thing I expected to be rusted shut, was unlocked. It swung open with a low groan, revealing a pitch-black interior. Inside, it smelled like salt, rust, and something sour beneath it all. Like something wet that had been left in the dark for far too long, something that never dried. The staircase spiraled upward into the darkness, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. I used my phone's flashlight to see, the weak beam barely cutting through the gloom. Halfway up, my light caught something on the stone walls. Scratches. At first, I thought they were just marks from age, but as I looked closer, I realized what they were. Tallies. Hundreds of them, carved into the stone in frantic, desperate lines. Group after group of 5. It looked like someone had been counting the days, or maybe something else entirely. Who had been trapped here long enough to do this? And why? At the base of the stairs, lying half-hidden under a dusty tub, was a notebook. It was water-damaged, the pages swollen and warped. I picked it up, my hands trembling slightly. Inside were entries in different handwriting, a logbook passed down through decades. Names. Dates. Each entry was short, cryptic. June 12, 1974. It calls for me in the fog. October 3rd, 1981. The light isn't mine anymore. Written in a shaky, barely legible script was just one sentence. I was already too late. I closed the notebook and started climbing again, my resolve hardening. I had to know what was at the top. As I climbed, I heard breathing. It was a slow, raspy sound that seemed to come from the walls themselves. It was not close, but not far either. It was just there. When I stopped to listen, it stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse than the sound itself. When I started moving again, the breathing started to, perfectly in sync with my footsteps. It was following me. Or maybe it was waiting for me. The lantern room was glowing with a soft, pulsating light. But there was no bulb. No wiring, no giant Fresnel lens like in old pictures. Just an empty space filled with a cold, white light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The hum I'd heard from outside was louder here. A low-frequency vibration that resonated deep in my chest, making my teeth ache. I stepped into the room, my eyes drawn to the large panes of glass that encircled it. The fog outside was so thick it was like a solid wall of white. And in the reflection on the glass, I saw myself, except it wasn't quite me. This version was thinner, its face gaunt and pale. Its eyes were wide, too wide, and its smile was all wrong. A stretched, predatory grin that didn't reach its dark, empty eyes. "You're late." It's a voice, a dry whisper that layered over the hum of the room, echoed in my mind. "You're late." My reflection, my twisted doppelganger, took a step forward in the glass, its smile widening. The next thing I knew, I was waking up on the roadside at sunrise, the keys to my car clutched in my hand. The engine started on the first try. I glanced back at the cliff. The lighthouse was dark, silent, just a stone tower against the morning sky. My head was pounding, and the events of the night felt like a fever dream. Weeks later, driven by a morbid curiosity I couldn't explain, I drove back. The lighthouse was gone. Not demolished, not a pile of rubble. Just gone. The cliff edge was bare, as if the tower had never existed. Last night, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. There were no words at first, just a photo. A lighthouse. Its beam cutting through a thick fog. My lighthouse. It was active. Then, a second message came through. The light works better when you're inside. If you ever see a lighthouse signaling when it shouldn't, turn around. Don't follow it. Don't get curious, because it's already seen you.